Did you know that a poor tennis program can cost you up to 60% in terms of player retention? In today's video, I'm going to share with you some secrets how I turned a struggling tennis program from just 86 players to 226 in less than 9 months. Welcome as always to mytenniscoaching.com and My Tennis Coaching on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button right now. Yes, a few years ago, I took over a tennis club. We had 86 players on the program, which in hindsight sounds pretty good, right? But we turned that round into 226 players in just 9 months. We also managed to produce a number of county and regional players in that time as well. So how did I do it? Well, the initial couple of weeks, I spent a lot of time watching the coaching program. I watched it from different perspectives. I got on court as an assistant and helped the coach run the session. I watched the sessions from the cafeteria, so behind a piece of glass where I couldn't really hear the coach, but I visually could see what was going on. And I watched it from different angles as well. I wanted to get a feel for what the session looked like from different perspectives as a coach, as a player, as a parent. I noticed quite quickly 3 fundamental mistakes my coaching team were making. Mistake number 1, there was too much isolated practice. Tennis coaching for many years has relied on the basket feed. So despite my groups having 8 or even 10 players, the coaches would often resort to standing the players in line and feeding them tennis balls. When I challenged the coaches on this, the coaches' feedback was quite simple. We are developing the fundamentals or the basics of technique. The players need to learn how to hit the ball first before they can play tennis, before they can get into a rally or a game situation. Or we tried rallying and it was an absolute mess. The players were only getting rallies of 2 or 3. The reason why this is quite fundamentally wrong is, number 1, it's boring. Anyone watching this video, does anyone like standing in queues or lines? I don't think so. The players were not getting enough volume. If I'm at the back of that line of 8 and I get to the front and I missed my 2 shots and then I go back to the line, the chances are I might not get any touches. More often than not, I spend the vast majority of the time standing around doing nothing. So for the 45-minute session, I'm actually not playing an awful lot of tennis. Mistake number 2, there was too many demonstrations and coach interventions. So again, in a 45-minute session, the coach would show 3 or 4 demonstrations, each lasting a couple of minutes. From a player's experience point of view, it's not great. My issue with demonstrations is, 1, they take a long time. If you have 8 players on the group and you're constantly getting them in and then back out and in and back out, you're wasting a vast majority of that time. Added to error number 1, the basket drilling, again, there's not a lot of action going on within these sessions. In a 45-minute session, most of the session was spent standing around listening to the tennis coach. And mistake number 3, it just wasn't competitive enough. A lot of the practices involved no scorekeeping, no consequences. So if players made errors, there was no consequence to making that error. And for me, this is a fundamental part of learning. We need to make mistakes to win. Tennis is a game of mistakes as well. Players need to learn that mistakes happen a lot and you fail a lot in tennis. You are constantly winning or losing points. That is part of the game. If we create an environment where we take away consequences and there's no element of mistakes, when players play tennis, it's a completely different sport. So a huge part of the change around was everything from the warm-up throughout the whole session. There has to be an element of competition. Now, we can change that to individual or team competition, or probably more importantly, the biggest competitor you compete against is yourself. So can you beat your own previous score? Rather than trying to get the highest score within the group, can you get a better score than the previous attempt? Just simple changes like this made a huge difference. After a couple of weeks, when we introduced these new principles of practice, no basket drilling, limit the demos, make it more competitive, we found that players started having more fun. The more fun the players had, the less likely they were to leave the program. Because our sessions became more about problem solving and decision making, the players did something truly unique. They started to tell their friends. That social proof was absolutely massive. we found that we had to do very little marketing because we made the lessons fun and engaging. Not only did people stay within our program, but they developed into very good tennis players as well. Some players went on to county and regional level tennis within that 9-month space. And this was my first journey into the constraint-led approach. By looking at the problems that we had on a tennis court with overcoaching and isolating skill, I started to look at alternative methods of coaching. Players learn by playing versions of the game. As a coach, our job is just to manipulate the environment. If you'd like 5 examples of how I changed my practices from boring isolated basket drills into more dynamic practice designs, check out my download below where you get 5 game-changing drills. As always, please like and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see you soon.